What's happening, everybody? Welcome in. Jason Priester, Clemson Insider. Man, it feels like there has a lot transpired since the last time we did this. Heck, a lot's transpired in just the past 24 hours. A lot of it not, Clemson related outside of finding out they were playing Penn State in the Pinstripe Bowl. But, man, there has been a lot of drama surrounding the playoff and bowls and those kind of things. Man, it's been it has been a crazy, look at it, as soon as we start my phone rings, it's been a crazy couple of days. We can start off talking about Clemson heading to the Pinstripe Bowl, face Penn State. With Notre Dame, pitching a hissy fit and opting out of playing any bowl game at all. It kind of, throws a monkey wrench into what the ACC does. Because they wanted Notre Dame slotted in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So when Notre Dame doesn't play, everybody has to move somewhere else. And they kind of held the process up for about an hour or so yesterday, from my understanding. And, I know a lot of people would have loved to see Clemson in Charlotte. I never thought that was much of a possibility. I had it on pretty good authority. Clemson did not want to go to Charlotte. So that kind of left the Sun Bowl and the Pinstripe Bowl. And then, if anybody watched that Sun Bowl telecast yesterday, I think it was pretty apparent they wanted Clemson in there. I'd have loved to have been a fly on the wall during some of those discussions, because, as you know, the Sun Bowl is a CBS type deal. Pinstripe Bowl, that's an ESPN deal. That's the ACC's television partner. I'm sure the ACC was pushing that way, and the Sun Bowl was probably, I'd have loved to have been a fly on the wall for those discussions and seen exactly how they played out between those two teams. Or those two bowls, trying to settle on which teams they were going to get. But, man, the news kind of has to be the playoff, right? And Notre Dame getting left out, Miami being in, which, if we're talking about just those two teams, Miami deserves to be in over Notre Dame. They beat them head-to-head, same record. And you can go and compare some other things on their resumes. I think Miami's the choice. And when Miami jumps Notre Dame yesterday, they get left out. Their AD throws a hissy fit, saying there's been permanent damage done between Notre Dame and the ACC. As everybody knows, Notre Dame's a full member in all sports except football. Why on God's green earth is the ACC going to push for Notre Dame to be in the playoff over Miami? And that's kind of what it came down to. Not that it should have, but that's kind of what it came down to. If you get Miami in, you're getting that playoff money. If you get Notre Dame in, you're not getting, Notre Dame's keeping all of it. You're going to go to bat before your, 17 member football institutions way before you're going to go to bat before Notre Dame. It'd be different if we're talking about the basketball tournament or getting into the baseball postseason, man. But when we're talking about football, man, they pride themselves on being independents, and that is part of the deal. You don't get the backing of the conference. I mean, that's just not the way the world works. So I have gotten a good kick of the past couple of days, of seeing how some of this plays out there. They've got even a couple of media members have just gone outright berserk on Twitter the past couple of days in defense, staunch defense of Notre Dame, and just so critical of the ACC. There's a lot of things you can be critical, of the ACC for doing, but man, this is not one of them, man. This was a no-brainer. The Notre Dame's mad because the network's been showing that Miami win over Notre Dame basically on a loop for a week now. All the graphics they put out, hyping, talking about how Miami was the choice over Notre Dame. I mean, I get it. I halfway understand, where they're coming from, but I just don't think they got a leg to stand on. You're a business partner with the ACC. You don't want to see them tarnish, your image or hurt you financially. But, man, when it comes to you got an ACC team, non-ACC team, that's a non-starter, man. Non-starter. Notre Dame could probably take some notes on how Vanderbilt's coach handled getting left out, said it's all on us. We had our opportunities. That's kind of what something along the lines of what Notre Dame's AD should have said, what Marcus Freeman should have said. You lost to Miami. You lost to A&M. Your two biggest games on your schedule. And I know Miami dropped a couple of the unranked teams. I get it. Totally get it. One of those, they kind of got hosed. The SMU game, they really got hosed on a call, probably gave SMU to win. But man, when you got two teams that are right there, side by side, head to head, it's got to be your deciding factor. Otherwise, why you play the games? To me, the bigger travesty was Alabama getting in. I don't get it, man. Every team that lost Saturday in a championship game, well, no, I take that back. I do get it. It don't make it right. Every team that played on championship Saturday and lost at least dropped down one spot, except for Bama. And Bama not only lost, man, they got absolutely crushed. Georgia just absolutely stuffed them in a locker. But Bama's always going to get the benefit of the doubt, just like they did 2 years ago over Florida State, when Florida State got left out of the last 4-team playoff because Jordan Travis was hurt, despite winning on championship Saturday and being undefeated. But to me, that's what the argument should be about Bama and Notre Dame, not Miami and Notre Dame. You can even go back to rivalry weekend, man, where Bama gets up. I think it was 17 points, and they, all of a sudden they find themselves in a dogfight against a Auburn team that finished under 500. They were in a dogfight a couple weeks before that against South Carolina, a 4-win team. They did not have the strongest of Novembers when it comes to the eye test that people like to talk about so much. So to me, the biggest travesty in all of this is a 3-loss Bama team getting in. I absolutely think Notre Dame's got a gripe, but I think their gripes, their anger is, focused on the wrong party. Maybe you should take a look at how Bama always gets in, no matter what. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that ESPN's the SEC's biggest television partner, and ESPN is the home of the college football playoff. But nonetheless, Clemson and Penn State in the Pinstripe Bowl. Avion Terrell announces he's going to go pro today. He didn't make any comments about playing in the bowl game or anything. Fully would not expect him to play in the bowl game. He got hurt in the last game anyways, and had to leave in the first half and never came back. Was never really expecting him to play. So that leaves you with guys like Peter Woods and T.J. Parker and seems like there's somebody else I'm forgetting, but guys that's got a decision to make. Antonio's already said he's not coming back despite having a year left, and then we're still waiting on some of these portal departures. There are going to be some more than what we've seen. We've already seen 2. And I absolutely expect a few more at the very least. Have us losing this game. I can't tell you anything about this game. I don't even know how you put a betting line out on it when you don't know who's playing and who's not. Let's see who's opting out and who's opting in. It does kind of give you a good storyline, though, with the Tom Allen thing and 2 teams that were ranked inside the top 5 heading into the season with huge expectations and both fell flat on their faces. Oh, yeah. Clemson did pick up a commitment last week, too. Trey Wembley, the kid from Daniel. Go ahead and roll the eyes because you're hearing the word Daniel. A 2028 4-star wide receiver who, a week before committing, announced that he was reclassing from 28 to 27. Before he reclassed, we're talking about one of the top receivers in the 28 class. This dude, he had 1,000 yards at Daniel this past season. This he's legit, man. He's a legit player. Tyler Grisham gets another good one. His daddy's on the he works in the facility there with the All In Foundation or something. I can't remember specifically. I want to say it's with the All In Foundation. They're originally from Alabama, moved to the upstate a couple of years ago, and he's been playing at Daniel. But the kid's been a fixture at home games. I think he's been to every home game this season. If he missed one, it was only one, but I think he was at every single one of them. I think he only took 2 other visits. One of them was to Tennessee, maybe, but that's kind of a guy that I always envisioned probably ending up with Clemson. Didn't think it was going to pop off that quickly, man. He just did it out of the blue the other day. Forget what day it was, Thursday or something. Thursday, or was it Thursday or Friday? I think it was Thursday. But yeah, Tyler Grisham continues to get it done on the recruiting trail. Portal QB doesn't sound promising after listening to Dabo's last presser. Your thoughts? My thoughts have not changed. I fully believe Clemson's going to go after a quarterback in the portal. That's not just. And I have reason for saying that. Does that mean they'll go out and land one? No. Does that mean plans can't change? No. But as we sit here today, I fully envision Clemson looking for a quarterback in the portal. Dabo's not going to come to the podium, despite what he said a few weeks ago when he was talking about, I'll let y'all know what I need and y'all can advertise it for me, yada, yada, yada. He's not going to do that. He is not going to tell you what his plans are. I would have expected him to say nothing less, even if he needed more than one quarterback in the portal. You don't come out there and number one, you don't want to run the guys on the roster off. But you might end up doing anyway. But my feelings on that have not changed. I believe that Clemson will make a run at a quarterback in the portal. I don't think it's going to be a Sam Levitt or one of the $4 million guys. I would maybe look a tier below that. But I do believe they're going to look for somebody that can come in and start next year. What an end to the college football season. The committee was predictably biased, but the Notre Dame AD really lit my fuse. All you can do is laugh, man. I totally get the frustration, man, but to sit there and trash the ACC the way he did after everything, after the ACC has done nothing but bend over backwards for those guys, ever since they basically joined as a part-time member. It was Notre Dame that really pushed hard for Stanford and Cal to become members of the league. I mean, there have been they get a full vote besides not being, despite not being a full member. I mean, there's all kind of things that benefit them from this arrangement. And make no mistake, the ACC benefits too. But the anger is directed at the wrong place, man. It's not the ACC that you should be angry with. It's the committee, it's the process, it's the corruption in that room. Who besides Avion is likely not going to be in the bowl? TJ, anybody that declares for the draft, I would expect not to play in the bowl game. I can't tell you for certain, but I would lean towards TJ, Peter Woods. Those would be two right off the top of my head. We'll see about Tristan Lee or Blake Miller. I would expect, if healthy, those guys would play. I would expect Cade to play. Fully expect Adam Randall to play. We'll see about Antonio. I kind of lean towards thinking he might will. But wouldn't shock me if he didn't. You gotta take into account the risk reward there, and there's a whole lot of risk for very little reward for some of those guys. All of the playoff drama probably could have been prevented had the ACC tiebreakers actually made logical sense. Well, if you look at the tiebreakers, man, a lot of the conferences use a lot of the same tiebreakers. But the one thing the ACC didn't do was add in, if you get that far down, maybe just send the highest ranked team. That's probably something they need to take a look at. But it's not like their tiebreaker system's all this egregious or everything, man. The ACC just sucked this year. That's the biggest thing here. You had Clemson and Florida State both sucking. You had a bunch of teams that lost 2 games in. I think there were 5 that ended up being tied, if I'm remembering right. There's that's always going to be a mess anytime you have a 5-way tie for one of those spots. But yeah, they probably need to look at that and say, hey, we might need to add in this little nugget here of the sending the highest ranked team. Now viewers get Oregon versus James Madison. James Madison, I think, was going to always be in. Or one of those teams, which I don't pay attention to much G5 football, but one of those guys were always going to be in either way. Duke getting in, I think it was allowed Tulane to get in, or Duke winning that game allowed Tulane to get in. But I'm not a big fan of the G5 inclusion. I've always been a proponent of those guys having their own playoff. I tend to seem to always be in the minority on that opinion, but everybody always likes to compare the playoff and the March Madness, where, man, when you start comparing basketball and football, that's an apples and oranges comparison. You're just not going to have, those Cinderella teams like we see in basketball, so often. You might find one every now and then that pulls off one upset. Even those, I think, will be very few and far between. But I just don't know that there's going to be a G5 team capable of making a run. We've already seen James Madison play a Power 4 team this year and they get beat by 2 touchdowns. I think Tulane actually beat Duke, but that ain't saying a whole lot. I think they got smoked in their other Power 4 game. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. Again, I don't watch a whole lot of G5 football, but I would absolutely prefer a playoff for just G5 teams. They crowned their own national champion. You're obviously not going to get a television contract, anything remotely in the ballpark of the college football playoff. But, man, I have a hard time believing somebody would not, pay to put that on air. People will watch it because it's football, particularly if you don't put it head-to-head against the big boy games. What would I grade Penn State's hiring of Campbell? I'm a big fan of Campbell. I've often wondered how he, hasn't gotten scooped up before now. But let's, brutal truth here, man. They had to go way down in the pecking order to get to him. I don't know why that is. That is Penn State lost their entire recruiting class by firing James Franklin and not hiring, a replacement much sooner. You guys, you see Penn State players tweeting about what's taking so long to get a head coach. Tony Rojas, that name might ring a bell with some of you Clemson guys. He was a Clemson target when he came out of high school. Unless something changed late, I don't think they signed a single high school recruit last Wednesday on signing day. Their whole class literally fell apart. Half of it's there at Virginia Tech with James Franklin now. But yeah, I am a big fan of Campbell, man. When Clemson and Iowa State played in the Cheez-It Bowl a few years ago, we got to be around him a little bit, and I got to like him even more than I already did. But we'll see. I don't know if this is the best fit. As far as a grade, the way the whole thing's played out from the firing into the hiring, I'd give it a F. And that has nothing to do with Campbell, just the way the whole thing's been handled. And yeah, the other team Tulane played was Ole Miss, who they're fixing to play again, and Ole Miss beat the brakes off of them 45-10. Much appreciated, my friend. The latest on Garrett Riley. I'll echo what we put out last week. Do not expect him back next year. That does not mean he's been fired already. Doesn't mean he's getting fired tomorrow. The best case scenario here is for him to find a job elsewhere and leave. Nobody has to get fired. No buyouts have to get paid. You're just gonna have to be a little patient and let things work out. I do know this, something else we put out late last week, that Clemson has already started looking, at potential replacements. The guy from Georgia Tech, there was absolutely some interest there. All signs indicate that Riley's not going to be back. And there'll be other ones too. Oh, yeah. A couple of things I forgot to mention there at the start. Brandon's going to jump on with us here sometime around 7:30. And I forgot to plug the sponsor, man. A-Glass. 2 locations right here in the PD, one in Florence, one in Sumter. Take care of all your auto glass needs and do replacement repair. Get yourself a free quote today. myaglass.com. The website's always scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. Notre Dame always struck me as a Big Ten team anyways. Oh, yeah, I can see that. But do you think Notre Dame's going to give them the same deal that ACC did? Let them join part-time? I'm not saying they won't. I just don't know that they will. I don't know that they need them that badly to where you'd have to, make a lot of concessions to get them on board. I get it. Sticking it to the man, but don't think NCAA won't forget this. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about. And what it could do for the future. Yeah, I'm not really sure what you're referring to there. Bama beat 4 straight ranked teams and played an extra game, and they lost 3 games, and they got their asses stomped on championship Saturday. You know, yeah, if you want to reward them, yeah, reward them for winning, man. You know, who wants to see a 3-loss team in the playoff? I don't care if you play in the SEC, the Big Ten. It's just one more example of how corrupt this thing is, and it's all about whether you play in the SEC or the Big Ten. I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about the NCAA won't forget what Notre Dame's done here. You know, I'm sure they won't. You know, me personally, I'd have had Notre Dame in over Alabama, not Miami, because to me, the games on the field have to matter, man. When you got 2 teams that have played head to head. But I am very curious to see how this thing plays out with with Notre Dame and all the temper tantrums of the day. And let's not forget, man, Bama also lost to Florida State. Florida State, who finished under 500. Every Monday, man, football, basketball, baseball, year round. There might be a Monday here and there where, you know, I have something going on and we don't do it, but every Monday, I think what we're going to do this year, last year, me and Ashby did a baseball podcast during baseball season, and it aired on Thursday nights. And by the end of the season, man, that thing had started to wear on me because most of you know I don't live in Clemson, so I'm on the road a lot. And when baseball series are played on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I generally have to travel on Thursday. So doing them on Thursday, by the time the season was over, it was starting to wear on me. So I think what we might do this year is just turn Monday into that. Doesn't mean it has to be baseball specific, but we'll talk a lot of baseball during baseball season. You know, and just have it on Mondays instead of doing 2 during the week. But to answer your question, yeah, we'll every Monday. Every Monday. No, Bama didn't lose as much as BYU, but they lost by less than Ohio. They lost by more than a lot more than Ohio State, who dropped a spot. There he is, B Ford. What's up, my man?
What's going on, man? It's been a while.
It has been a while. Let's go back to the South Carolina game. I hadn't talked to you since before that. You know, not on here anyways.
Right.
You know, that thing played out a little differently than I was expecting. How about you?
So I kind of had us finishing the season. I just felt like we had nothing really to lose. So we're going to make a run the last couple of games. But going into that game, only thing I was worried about was how are we going to attack them like on defense? Where are we going to spy Sellers? Because obviously, you know, last year his feet is what hurt us. Or where are we going to, wait to make adjustments? And once I saw that we always had someone either scraping over the top for them, and obviously our D line actually played to what we was waiting for them to play all year. They looked really good, but I wasn't too much worried about us offensively because I felt like at times over the last 4 or 5 weeks we were clicking, like we were starting to produce. I was more so just trying to figure out like how are we gonna defend Sellers, and it actually defended him pretty well from what he did to us last year compared to this year. So,
Man, I went back and watched that thing this week, and I think I only remember him breaking 1 tackle the whole game.
Yeah, man. Listen, Will Helt, T.J. Parker. I mean, those guys were flying around the field. Woodaz and Sammy, they both like were relentless as far as effort. I mean, he didn't, like you said, maybe one tackle, maybe one. I mean, some of them were shoestrings that normally he don't go down. You know what I mean? Like, so that was very pleasing to see. I mean, I was disappointed, and I knew we were going to give up the play in the secondary. I knew it was coming, and I knew Nick Harvey was probably going to get one of them, which he did. The other one was kind of bogus. The one where guy catches the ball and it's like we just stopped. But
That was one of the weirdest plays.
I knew Harvard was going to get one. I knew they were going to throw that deep ball to him, and that was a great pass by Sellers. And just safety was there. Just had a that much negative of an angle changed it. You know what I mean, we got a guy that fast. You can't really, if you're gonna try to spy one way, you better be fast enough to get back there. But other than that, man, they played pretty well, pretty sound. Could have done some things better, but for the most part, I mean, obviously Cade and some of the throws he had early. Other than that, man, they pretty well. I mean, I was pretty pleased with the run game.
Had
The
him
way we
rattled.
kind of controlled it. And I think if two don't miss those passes early, I mean, the game gets kind of out of hand early.
So, what did you think of the teams that got into the playoff yesterday and Notre Dame getting left out?
So I told everybody, and it honestly, JP, it took me a couple of years when they were just doing the four teams to like realize how they were starting to measure criteria. Obviously strength of schedule, rather lose early than late. But when you got this 12-team things, right? And I mean, you can argue, really, you got a good core of 8. This year, you might have 10 legitimate teams that probably could win it. But Notre Dame, and you've heard it, I've heard it. They said it before. Without them being in the conference, with them being able to pick the rinky-dink schedule they have, if they lose a game or two, it's always going to haunt them. And that's just, you think about it now. Think about if Virginia would have won, if BYU would have won, would we even be having this conversation?
No.
Right? Right? So now you sit here and you say, okay, Virginia lost, Miami got in, BYU lost, JMU and Tulane got in, right? So my thing is, if you don't want those teams outside of the Power Four, you handle your business. You just handle it and you say, all right, well, this is the best 12 we got. But, I've never been too far. Like, don't get me wrong, Notre Dame, usually after the first couple of games, they look more of a complete team. They always, look shaky in the first couple. Then they go on this spree where they win 9 or 10 in a row. They look great. Everybody's like, Notre Dame, Notre Dame. They get in the top 10 because people start losing. But until they join a conference, I don't see it, man. I mean, and I know there's some speculation where next year it's supposed to be like if they're ranked in the top 12.
Top 12.
I don't know, man. I mean, again, look, if it's down to, how biased they're gonna be towards the SEC. So if it's down to a team,
At least if it's Alabama.
right. So my thing is, yes, Alabama lost. This is what I was trying to explain to people. Yes, they lost. Yes, they lost early to Florida State, who we thought was going to be great after week 1, but you never really know what you got in week 1. You don't know what you got until like week 4 or 5. So they had another loss to who gave Alabama another? Was it
Oklahoma?
Oklahoma, right. So they had a loss against Oklahoma, good team. They had a loss against Florida State, shouldn't have been, but whatever. And then you lose to Georgia in the championship. So here's what I was telling people. Are you going to not put in Bama but throw in Tulane or James Madison if you're looking for the best teams? Because any day Alabama's going to probably run the course with Tulane. James Madison probably will put up more of a fight. But I just, again, and Kirby had a great point. I don't know. Did you see his interview after the SEC championship?
I saw some clips. Remind me.
So he pretty much was saying, you look at a team that was pretty much the best in the conference almost all year. They beat us earlier this year. They lost to a good OU team. And, obviously they had the early week 1 loss, but they pretty much had controlled their own destiny going into this Saturday. And he was saying you can't really penalize them. Kind of what Sweeney did last year with SMU. You can't really penalize them off losing to a championship game when you're playing against a great team or good team or whatever. And if you're going to pick 12 teams, they got to be in it almost pretty much. So I think that –
Here's my thing. Every loser from Saturday dropped down at least one spot except Alabama.
Right. Now here's my thing. I thought they would have got like the 12th spot. I didn't think it was going to stay right at 9. I for sure said, okay, they got beat by 21. They're going to slip them in there, but they're probably going to get like number 12. But, I mean, when you tell me, when you think about dangerous teams who can actually run the table, is it Alabama? Are you going to pick Notre Dame?
If it's Alabama, they better play a lot better than they played in the month of November.
But GP, here's the thing. And you've seen this over the years. Alabama nor Georgia, I don't think has beaten each other twice in a season yet over the last couple of years. Normally it goes the other way. One wins, then the other one beats the other one later. But it's hard to beat that team twice in a year. It's hard.
Let's see here. Bama didn't get in over SMU last year, though. They haven't gotten benefit of the doubt all of the time. Not every year, but most they have gotten it more than they probably should. They got in over Florida State 2 years ago. There was 1 year where Auburn beat them. They didn't even make it to the SEC championship game, yet they still get in after Auburn loses in the SEC championship, and Auburn's eliminated, so it hurt them that year. But it's a little bit different when you're talking about the 4-team playoff.
And
they've gotten the benefit of the doubt a few times.
And they also had 4 losses, not 3, last year.
Have you seen the hissy fit that Notre Dame pitched?
Yeah, so I mean
about just saying that they've done potential damage with their relationship, or the ACC's done permanent damage with their relationship with Notre Dame.
I honestly was trying to figure out where they were like going with that. Like, I mean, yes, you play or have played, especially the COVID year, the 7 or whatever amount of ACC games a year, but you're still not playing for a championship. And I find it kind of odd that they, came screaming at the ACC because Miami got it. And I think if it would have been somebody else, then they would have said maybe the Big 12 or whatever. But I just think it was a topic for them to start trying to say, hey, look, we're probably not going to ever join the ACC now because of what happened. And I'm just like,
oh, let's be real. They were never joining anyway.
And I'm just like, okay, y'all ain't giving up that NBC deal, so I don't see you going anywhere.
Oh no, they gotta re-up that thing.
Yeah, if anything, it ain't gonna be the ACC or SEC. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I don't think they would get this. I don't know that the Big Ten would allow them to have the same deal that they get with the ACC.
No.
If they come to the Big Ten, they're gonna want them in football too. That's just. I might be way off base on that. That's just how I see it. The Big Ten doesn't need Notre Dame. Notre Dame gets a full vote in the ACC, despite not being a full member in football. They're the ones that really pushed for Cal and Stanford to join the league, got what they wanted. That there's just all kind of ways where the ACC makes concessions for them. Yet they want the ACC to not, politic for their own team against the team they beat head-to-head in Notre Dame, which is not an ACC member in football. I mean, that just, like I said earlier, the anger is directed in the wrong direction. We can sit here and debate whether Alabama or Notre Dame deserve to be in more. To me, that's the argument. You can debate all day. Miami gets in by virtue of the head-to-head.
And that's what I was about to say. Like, I felt like they tried to pick the ACC because they didn't want to start messing with the SEC. Because for one, we know they're not gonna probably put any SEC teams on their schedule like that yearly. Better yet, 2 or 3. But yeah, I mean, that's what I was kind of looking at. Like, okay, if you look at head-to-head losses, I mean, they lost, so you can't really say, okay, we're going to put this team over that team. And that's that's kind of like the old school days when they had to draw the iron out. They said, all right, did they play each other? Who won? And that's kind of how you deciphered it. But I don't know where they were going. I mean, they're putting on this big sissy fit of, oh, we're not gonna play in this game, and oh well. That's all I looked. I was just like, oh well. I mean,
you got to wonder how seniors felt about. I mean, I'm sure some of them were on board, but I wonder how some of them really felt missing out on their opportunity to play their last game ever, man. I don't know, man. The whole thing just doesn't sit right with me.
Well, also, I mean, one game helps a lot of players, when you look at film purpose, trying to get to the next level. So, I mean, it's probably sucks for the guys that probably need more film. But, I mean, it's kind of like almost the whole Florida State shebang minus playing the game. Where guys just like, oh, we're not going to play because we missed the playoffs. So
here's Notre Dame's schedule for next year. I think they play 3 road games all season. I think they do have 1 or 2 neutral sites, but 3 true road games all year. They open with Wisconsin. That's in Lambeau, neutral site. Then they play Rice at home, Michigan State at home, at Purdue, at North Carolina, Navy in Foxborough, so that's another neutral site. Miami at home, Boston College at home, SMU at home, Syracuse on the road, Stanford at home, and then Southern Cal. Man, that does not have a lot of teeth to it.
Right. And I get they're trying to wiggle the ACC schedule in towards the aim. And I mean, if anybody that you call out on that list that's, capable of talking about, it'll probably be Miami again. Maybe SMU if they're playing better defense. But I mean, like you just said, I mean, they ain't really got much to stand on.
With all the Notre Dame talk, the Clemson series was still happening starting in 27, correct? That's signed and sealed. I mean, they'd have to probably pay a pretty hefty buyout to get out of 12 games. I don't know all the details, but I do know that's been another point of contention with the ACC and Notre Dame. That is one of the very few things one of the very few concessions the ACC's not made for Notre Dame. Notre Dame wanted that game to count as one of its 5 against ACC teams every year, and the ACC's not back down. They keep saying no.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, unless they want to pay that fine, I don't think that's going to eliminate that game in 27.
It's like my man says here, Notre Dame, when the playoff expanded, they agreed to the terms. They agreed to all the guidelines in place and AQs and all that. And yet they're still unhappy, man. It just tickles me to death.
Yeah, they'll be all right, man. That's all I look at it. Get in the conference.
Yes, I still think you got staff changes coming.
But it won't happen until after the bowl game, probably.
The The portal opens up on January 2nd. Bowl games December 27th. He might have to get some of this settled before that, just so when you start recruiting some of these guys in the portal, they know who their position coach is going to be or their coordinator is going to be. So we'll see how that plays out, because that'll leave a very small window. You know, a lot of that stuff can be done in private too. You don't ever know when it'll get announced publicly. A lot of Clemson forum, not foreign, forum coaches must be thrilled that a Sweeney is going with Gross to Sanford. I had actually heard that both of the Sweeney sons might go, but it's being reported now that Drew's going, or one of the Sweeney boys. I get them mixed up, and as is Paul Tyson, who has been an intern on the staff this year after being kind of like a player coach at QB the past couple of years. There's been some speculation that Khan might go with him and serve as his defensive coordinator. I find it a little interesting that has not been sorted out yet, so we'll see which direction that heads in. But yeah, I mean that's I'm of the opinion that the support staff in this era is too big. You could probably cut a little meat off that bone. I thought it was fine for 5 years ago before you got into this rev share and stuff. But, that'd be a good spot for Drew or whichever Sweeney boy it is and Paul Tyson to kind of really get their coaching career started there at a smaller school, less pressure.
Right.
That's kind of the way it's supposed to go. Matt Campbell coach. From my understanding, the interim for Penn State's going to coach in the bowl game. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah, because I think now that you asked that, I'm kind of wondering about LSU's situation. Is Lane going to have much of a? I mean, he has to say so, but if he's going to kind of let the guy who did the interim stuff kind of follow through, then start once all that's over.
Oh, Lane, man, that's a whole nother circus we've.
You know what was funny? The part of the interview when he said, "I'm not gonna make decisions based on money."
Oh,
I'm like, really? So why'd you leave? Really?
Yeah. Because LSU was offering him more money to build his roster with.
Right.
Will hell, I lean towards thinking he'll be back, man. He's not announced one way or the other, but I lean towards thinking he'll be back.
I agree.
What are your thoughts on when and if we ever see a mega conference kind of set up like the NFL? I've talked about this a lot on here over the years. I've always said I kind of see it, kind of 40, 50 teams kind of breaking off and doing their own thing, and they'll all be sharing revenue from the same pie, and you might have two different leagues or conferences like the AFC and the NFC and the NFL, but that the revenue will be split up. It'll be one piece of revenue divided against all those teams. Now, when that might happen, I think within the next 10 years, these current television deals, they start to expire 2030, 2031. And then after that, the next time they'll start to expire, probably be around 2035, 2036. So, before we get to, 2036, I think you're going to see it. Matter of fact, this is something Dabo's talked about a lot in the past too. His number is 40. He keeps thinking he keeps saying he thinks there's going to be, 40 teams kind of break off and do their own thing. And he tends to think it's happening sooner rather than later. I think you end up having collective bargaining, real contracts. It's going to take some work to get there and figure out how you go from these players being student athletes to real employees. But there's a path there, man, and I kind of see it playing out that way. What about you?
Right. Honestly, the way everything's been going since the whole NIL era and the revenue share, right now, if you're a student athlete, you're kind of getting away, like especially on the tax part of it. But I agree. It's aiming in the direction. Even when I was in school, they always said it's a business, but it was more, I'd say, education pushed than what it is now, more pay to players. Yeah, you're still going, you're still on scholarship, you're still getting education, you still got to be eligible to play. But now guys are getting what they worked hard for to get once they got done in college. And now, like we said, JP, earlier, guys are not as, I don't want to say thrilled, but Clemson was a good example this year of, you just didn't see that edge you saw when it was, how can I be a better individual to better the team to get whatever, goals we had set forward. And then you also had your individual goal, how can I be better to get myself to the next level? Now it's like, I've arrived out of high school, I'm getting paid thousands, millions of dollars, whether I stink it up or play well. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah,
yeah, I agree.
used to be you were playing for the opportunity to get paid big money. Few
Exactly.
years down the line, now a lot of these guys get paid big money before they step foot on campus.
Exactly. And that's the crazy thing is, that's a part of their quote unquote bargaining when they go on official visits. Like, hey, you know, where do you guys see me? Am I, red shirt? Am I going to play? Okay, once that's talked, okay, how much NIL? We were coming up, that wasn't a thing. It was, are you physically ready? If not, we're going to redshirt you. And now it's, well, what if I don't agree with, you don't think I'm being ready? Oh, I'm gonna go somewhere else. So yeah, I agree, man. I agree. It's going in that direction where there's gonna be a lot of twists and turns, and things are gonna have to tighten up to be able to because if you don't, excuse me, if you don't stick a fork in it now, it's gonna blow out of proportion, and man, you're gonna be talking. Players are gonna have full control of what they want.
Yeah, I don't think what we have now is sustainable for the long term.
No,
Some of these schools have already got their players basically from the portal. Does it hurt that Riley's still on staff to try to get another QB? While there's definitely some negotiating going on behind the scenes, nobody can sign until the second. So nothing's officially done until it's done. I think every team that is looking to address some needs in the portal is already doing their due diligence and maybe even going as far as starting to negotiate. And when I say every team, I mean every team. You can always, if you got, let's just say, for example, you want to go get a quarterback out of the portal. You got a guy as your offensive coordinator, is coming back. Is not coming back. Again, like I said earlier, just because something's not been announced publicly, that does not mean you cannot reveal the plans to the guy you are targeting in the portal. Even if you can't give him a name on who the guy's going to be, you can tell him who it's not going to be and what the system's going to be and those kind of things. But to me, that's why you got to, any staff changes you're going to do, you got to have them done, before the portal opens up, man, and probably at least a week or so minimum before it opens up. Who's your vote for the Heisman?
I haven't catch up. I haven't, honestly. The guys who I knew at the time I was watching was the quarterback from was it Vanderbilt? I was watching him. Obviously, he was tearing it up. I thought the running back for I don't know where he is on the board, but Notre Dame's running back, Love.
Yep. He's
Um,
one of the favorites.
I was watching. I can't remember if it was the receiver or the quarterback from Indiana State that was talked about at one point. Um,
The
God,
quarterback from Indiana,
or is,
Mendoza.
yeah, that's his name. But no, it was the receiver. The
Oh,
receiver, the tall. At one point, you remember when he made the toe tap catch to
oh
beat
yeah, yeah.
that guy? Yeah, he was
I
he
can't remember
was
his name.
he was quote unquote, one of the guys in there. But I don't. Other than that, I mean, I haven't really kept up on it as I did like over the past couple of years. Obviously like last year and previous years. But I don't know who you got picked.
I would go with Mendoza, Indiana quarterback.
That's fair.
I that you mentioned my top three: Mendoza, Love, Pavia.
And then where is just out of curiosity, because I mean he's killing it this year. Where's receiver from Ohio State? Oh man, what's the kid name? Jeremiah Smith. Is he still on the board too, or
Talking about the Ohio State wide receiver or the
yeah,
Alabama
yeah,
wide receiver?
Ohio State?
Ohio State
Is
wide
it
receiver.
Jeremiah? Did I say Jeremiah Smith? I did say that. What's that kid name? I think it is Jeremiah.
Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah, okay, I do got it right. Yeah, where is he? Is he still on? Is he still at least in the top five? Because he was tearing it up earlier.
Yeah, his name's not on this list I just pulled
Oh,
up.
they don't got it on the current one.
No, I just pulled up a list of betting odds. Make sure I didn't leave anybody out. If Miami was ACC champs, Notre Dame would be in. Okay, I got it backwards. I couldn't remember if it was Tulane or James Madison because I remember I thought it was that. Forget what I was thinking. What I was thinking didn't make any sense. Anyways, I said it wrong earlier. But yeah, JMU would be out and Tulane would be in. Again, I am a proponent of the G5 having their own playoff, and you wouldn't have to worry about that. My thoughts on Garrett Riley possibly staying for one more year to see how he does without Cade. Again, everything that I've heard has led me to believe that Garrett Riley's not coming back. I'm not even 100% sure he'd want to come back. I don't think this has been the greatest of years for either party. No offensive coordinator likes getting thrown under the bus the way he was thrown under the bus a few times after some of those games this year. It's something we've rarely seen with Dabo being as critical as he was of Riley at times this year. He's a candidate for the Coastal Carolina job. Last I heard, anyways, I don't think they hired anybody today. Not that I saw, but that to me, that would be best case scenario. He finds another job and you got a clean split.
Right. Yeah, I don't. I agree. I don't think he's coming back next year from inside. I've been hearing.
Everybody who's complaining about the Sweeney boys being on the coaching staff can breathe a sigh of relief. Drew is going to be the wide receiver coach at Sanford. I know he's going to coach wide receivers. I don't know if he's going to be the actual wide receiver coach. He might be. I don't know. But yeah, I always get a kick out of that, man. Like those guys are so far down the pecking order, man, that they don't have that big impact in the game plan. It's. Oh, I just get
JP,
tickled
it's
every
just
time.
it's something for people to talk about, man. I honestly I don't respond to it because they like let me put it this way: if Clemson was winning, if we were undefeated, you'd never hear them complain about it. But because we didn't have the season we had, of course they're like, well, this guy's on this staff, that guy's on that. man, like you just said, they're so far down. I mean, they got to stop it.
Yeah, I just checked. You're right. Penn State did sign 2. It wasn't 0. It was 2. They got a 4-star QB in Peyton Falzon from Pennsylvania. And then they got Jackson Ford, a defensive end. Both of them are ranked inside the top 300, so there's that. But they had a 2-member signing class.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man,
Wow.
Penn State's been a clown show.
Yeah, because you know what? I was reading Virginia Tech signing class moved up pretty good when they got Franklin.
They sure did. He took a lot of them boys that decommitted from Penn State.
And they always said he was a great recruiter too.
Especially up there in that area.
That's good.
They finished with a top 25 class. Signed 22 guys.
What was it? Top 15, right?
It was in the composite. It's ranked 24th.
Okay. Because I know I was reading them in North Carolina. UNC's in the top, I think 15.
I know Clemson's like 18 or 19, and UNC's ranked a spot or two ahead of them. Let's see, I can tell you. But yeah, one of the guys that Franklin flipped at Virginia Tech was the quarterback Troy Hunt. He came and worked out at camp at Clemson last summer. He was one of the better quarterbacks to come through. Clemson obviously ended up, offering Peyton Houston, and a month later they offered 3 more guys, including Hughley, who committed a week later. So, I mean, they never really got in on Hunt. And he just announced he's reclassifying. So he'll be in school and he becomes a member of the 26 class instead of the 27 class. North Carolina, they actually signed 39 players on Wednesday. 39. Ranked 17th in the composite.
I know it was somewhere up there because I think it wasn't the composite when I was looking at it. It's kind of the one they start early where these teams might rank. And I was like, dang, they're pretty high.
I fear we will end up with Napier. Well, I can put those fears to bed. Number one, Napier has already been hired as the head coach, as James Madison. He's not going to quit, come be the OC at Clemson. And, him and Dabo, were you on the team? You weren't on the team. Were you on the team when Napier was there?
I was. Yes, I was.
It's pretty well known that they didn't always see eye to eye.
Listen, so when Napier was there, great recruiter. Honestly, the last time I spoke to Rob Gronkowski, we almost signed him. Like, he loved Napier, but obviously Arizona had more of a party atmosphere to Clemson, which is why he went there. But Napier was a great recruiter, but man, I remember the terminology of the offense was long. It was long, man. Like, now what you hear, it was times 20. It was long. And
Clemson run the I formation back then, and Dabo wanted to run spread, and that was one of the reasons why he went with somebody else too.
Yeah. Yep.
Hear a lot of people say, is Dabo's offense or the Clemson offense? If true, would it make any difference who the OC is? 100%, because Garrett Riley has been in control of the offense this year. I don't care what you read online by people like Robert Timms, who I see is over here in the comments tonight, telling you that Dabo's calling the plays or he's over involved in the play calling and yada, yada, yada. Any offensive coordinator that Dabo hires and brings in, whether he's going to, whether it's hiring Brandon Streeter to run the same offense basically that Tony Elliott was running before he left, or whether he's getting rid of Streeter and bringing in Garrett Riley to come install a new scheme. He is wanting, the idea is for the guy to come in and install something that can be used even after he's gone. Right. The next guy, maybe they can hire internally and that guy can run it. And that's why you see Dabo like to call it the Clemson offense. It doesn't matter whose scheme it is. He wants them to come and install a scheme that can be used at Clemson for the foreseeable future. that was the plan with Garrett Riley. Obviously, it's not worked out the way anybody wanted it to. There are a lot of differences with the offense now and what was being run, back before Riley got here. I mean, some things you're not going to notice unless you really look for them. Like from my understanding, I mean, even the spacing along the offensive line is different. The route trees are different. They do a lot more. You can see some of the air raid tendencies that's in that offense that wasn't there before Riley got there, especially with the way they, some of the routes they run and stuff. They've been a lot more reliant on counters and traps as opposed to the zone runs that they like to run, under Streeter and Tony Ellis. I mean, there's a lot of subtle differences and there's a lot of bigger differences. But, man, it's been the Garrett Riley show, I mean, I'm not saying Dabo's never overruled a play call. I mean, every head coach does that at some point or another. But
right.
It's basically – Riley's basically had the keys to the car.
Yep. 100%. And it was that way even when Chad was in there. I mean, he had full control of calling his offense and branding it.
People want to put Clemson in the SEC or big grass ain't always greener. Let's stay in the ACC. There ain't going to be – I don't know that the ACC is going to be 5 years from now what it is right now, especially if Notre Dame goes and does something different, takes their name out of the hat. Florida State takes their name out of the hat, moves on. North Carolina takes their name out of the hat, moves on. There's nothing left to stay for. ESPN's going to have no interest in paying real money for that television contract with just Clemson and North Carolina State and maybe even, or let's just say Miami stays for whatever reason. Clemson and Miami and Georgia Tech. I mean, it's not going to be a whole lot of bang for your buck there.
Agreed.
All this will not matter in about 5 years. Big and SEC will break away. Yeah, I think that'll be what starts it, and it won't just be Big Ten and SEC teams. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be shocked if there were a handful of teams in the, let's just say, SEC and Big Ten that don't go when the break comes, and there's a small number of ACC and maybe a Big 12 team or two in there.
Right. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how everything unfolds.
Remember, next year, the Power Four conferences get their champion in regardless of record. Then you might see a 4 or 5 loss team. You'll absolutely see it at some point. And it'll probably be an ACC team.
Right. Man, I kind of wanted Virginia to go. I was rooting for Tony. I was like, man, I hope they can win it and get in. I kind of wanted to see Chandler Morris a little more too, but man, what a game that was.
Yeah, that I don't. I was pulling for Virginia too, man. I really wanted to see Tony Elliott make it, and when they tied it up there at the end and sent it to overtime, I really thought they were gonna do it.
But how about Duke's head coach? Man, he's been known for going for it fourth down.
Hey, he won an ACC title at Duke before he could win one at Miami, and he couldn't win one at Miami.
Yeah, that's good coach.
Yeah, I've always kind of liked Manny Diaz, man.
And he ain't afraid to game on the line, like go for the win. He's not trying to go to overtime or try. You know what I mean? He's like what you saw with the Clemson game and stuff like that. He's man. Look, we're gonna take some chances and aggressively.
Yeah, he's definitely gutsy. The 3 defensive line starters come back or go pro. We've already seen Terrell today announce he's going pro, cornerback. I lean towards thinking Woods is gone. I lean towards thinking Parker's not back. I lean towards thinking Will Held will be back. That's kind of how I see that playing out.
I think I don't know where Woods' head is, but if I had to pick today, he's gone. I think Parker may. I don't know, but
here's the question with Parker. He was one of the highest paid players on the team last year.
Mm-hmm.
After the way he played last year, and he says, "Hey, I want to come back." You got to tell him, "Hey, we're not paying you the same thing we paid you last year, though, right?"
Kind of got to give Helt that money because
exactly.
He's the one that's what I'm thinking.
And to me, that could maybe signal
transfer. Right.
I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying don't discount the possibility. I still lean towards thinking he's going to go pro.
Well, my thing is, he just turned into Superman against South Carolina. Like, where was that all year?
I thought he played pretty good against Louisville too. He didn't have the sacks, but I thought he was very disruptive in that game.
Well, I think the last year we saw more sacks, and he just every time Sellers tried to go, he was there. Him and Will Helt they were there. Like I knew Sellers got tired of seeing those two.
Absolutely. Are the OC choices coming from the scrap pile? I've only heard one name, so I can't really answer that. The only one I know about so far is Faulkner from Georgia Tech, and Florida knew that Clemson had some interest there, and they moved fast and got that thing done. I have not heard anything about Mike Reed's future. I would hate to see Mike Reed go because I think he's one of the best corners coaches in the country. Nobody will ever convince me otherwise. I'm also not convinced that maybe he's been at Clemson for a long time, man. I think since like 2011, something like that.
He got there. He got there in 2012.
So after
because
11 season.
Or did he get there in 13? You know what? I take that back. He got there in 2013.
13 after the 12 season?
Yeah, because his last couple of guys from NC State was David Emerson.
Yep. That's right.
Eric Wolf and Bishop. Those guys. They had a good group.
He did work with them dudes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I remember how happy I was when they hired him away from North Carolina State. But he's been a heck of a cornerbacks coach at Clemson.
And he's put a lot of DBs out of Clemson.
Including multiple first-round picks.
Yeah, listen, you got Mackenzie Alexander. Now you'll have both of the Terrells. What was the one kid? Wiggins. What was the kid that went?
Nate Wiggins.
Was it Trey? Was it something young?
Nate Wiggins was one.
What was the tall cornerback?
Mario Goodrick went and played several years in the NFL. Hold on.
What was the corner? Was it Trayvon? Trey something.
Tankersley?
No, him too, but no. Oh, Mullen.
Trayvon Mullen.
Trayvon Mullen was another one. I mean, you can throw Isaiah Simmons in there because he did play safety, corner. I mean, he lined up everywhere.
But Bashard Breeland.
Yeah, I was about to say Bashard. He's had some really good products, and
Gary Peters.
Yep. I think Gary still might be playing in the CFL. He's put a lot of guys out there. Let's put it that way. And he has. I don't like to fault some of the guys this year on his behalf. I think it was more player effort than um, coaching.
There's two other things that could be going on. Sometimes, a guy just stays in one place too long, and both parties can benefit from a
Hmm.
change of scenery. Not saying that's what's happening here, just saying it's a possibility. Second thing, it is also possible for an assistant to not work well with the coordinator and the philosophies to not mesh and the personalities not line up. That
Right,
could
right,
also be playing a factor here. And I've not heard that about Mike Reed. I have heard that with another assistant or two on that side of the ball. But so I don't expect Mickey Khan to be back. I don't think anybody really does. After the way the safeties played this year, somebody's got to fall on that axe, and unfortunately, it'll be him. Even though I don't think he's been nearly as bad as a lot of people make him out to be. But I don't
right,
know
right.
about Reed. I don't know about Reed yet. I've not heard one way or the other. So just gonna have to keep waiting
Well,
on that
he's
one.
one thing he's done is develop those guys. I can say that because I saw some practice tape on Avion. Avion might be he might be tiny, but he's really good. I think he broke the record, right, with the fumble against South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Terrell,
Yeah, Avion Terrell.
yeah,
I think he broke the record.
He's got the most forced fumbles for a defensive back in Clemson history.
Right, right.
Yep. Should Clemson join the SEC or Big Ten if possible? Look, I think when you start talking about that stuff, you got to look through it. You got to look at it through the landscape of what the future might look like. Because I don't think 5 years from now, or maybe it's 10 years from now, I think college football just looks completely different. I think
Right.
it's more of a professionalized model where, again, 40, 50 teams kind of break off from the NCAA and go do their own thing and have their own television deal and those kind of things. And when that happens, yeah, I think Clemson needs be a part of that. Otherwise you're going to basically be stuck in, what's considered G5 or
Yeah.
FCS. You'll be, one of the have-nots, you'll be one of the have-nots instead of the haves.
So JP, let me ask you this: when that happens, or when that comes around, how do you think that affects the education part of it, or does it affect it at all?
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's going to be one of
like
the
because you're getting to a more business like model, right? So do you
like
think it affects it? Like, hey, does schooling even matter if
I'm
you're
not
getting
sure it
outside?
will at that point. I could see
Yeah.
it getting to a point where, these kids don't even go to classes. You're basically just wearing the logo, and
Well,
maybe the league pays the university for the rights to wear that logo. There's a lot of different directions this thing can
that's
go.
what I was getting next. Like, do you think it'll still be some like the kids that love the everything? You think it's gonna be some kids say, "Hey, I still want to get a degree because there's life after football," or do you see it more as I'm going to just play football. I'm getting paid. I'm going just to play football. If I make it to the NFL, I make it. If not, I've at least done 4 years. I'm set. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you'll still have both those types. I think the more elite athletes who absolutely think and believe they're going to play in the NFL will go and play in this other league, and I think all the rest or find a place, in what probably
Right.
might even get back to being more regionalized. That's just kind of how I envision it. It might not play out exactly that way. I just think we're headed to a model that looks more similar to the NFL at
Right.
some point. And yes, I think that a players' union will be a part of that and collective
Yep.
bargaining.
Yep. If you look at what the NFL and NBA and all those, it's almost like that's what they're following now, and it's probably gonna start to trickle with other sports too.
And I think when you get to that point, you'll have some sort of salary cap.
Yep.
But under this current landscape, you got the revenue share salary cap, but due to a Supreme Court ruling a few years ago, schools can't put monetary limits on how much a player can make. And it's particularly hard. I mean, I don't know how you cap NIL, because that's technically supposed to be somebody paying you for your name, image, and likeness. And that is worth whatever somebody wants to pay you for
it. And that's so. Here's my thing on that. I think that's where you see the schools with the money, your Texas schools, for example, have more room to wiggle to get who they want because of the donors, the type of donors they have. When you think oil industry, things like that, or like we were just talking, the difference between LSU and Ole Miss. But when that cap comes in, that playing field might start to level back again, because now this oil donor can't say, hey, we're going to give you $20 million. We're going to give you $20 extra million on top of the 20 that the NCAA is giving you to spend, to where you go to a place like, let's just use South Carolina, for example, where you might not have an extra 20 and multiple industries that want to give it to the university. So I think, like you said, man, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes and how it navigates once it gets there, because just like now, there's no cap on, the NIL stuff. So it's kind of just out there.
Yeah. I just don't think, it's like my man here says, I just don't think what we have right now is very sustainable. At a certain point, the bubble's going to burst, and, these donors that are giving $5, $10, $15 million a year with no return on investment, because only one team can win it all every year, so every other team's donors are not getting any return on that investment. At a certain point, that money is going to dry up.
Right. I'll answer this one first. I think you will. I think, just to piggyback on what you just said, there's only one team that's going to win it all. So you're going to start to see people potentially want to recoup some of that money. So they're going to have to be contracts or some kind of legal battle, whatever, in place to, one, protect donors or players, however you want to look at it. There's going to be percentages. Maybe they might be just like incentives, like with the NFL. If you do or you don't hit a certain number of statistics or a team goal, maybe a certain amount of revenue is pulled back, or maybe there's a bonus on top of that. Like kind of what, again, we're talking about him again. Lane Kiffin is if he hits a certain criteria of goals, he gets bonuses. So I think they're going to have some kind of contracts going on, because honestly, that's the one way to protect everybody, as well as make it kind of fair in another aspect.
Actually, you know what? I missed the second part of this. He asked about the Georgia suing. Georgia's got a player that they're suing for $390,000. I forget his name, but he transferred to Georgia, signed a deal. I think he played a year, signed a second deal, if I'm remembering that right. And then right after he signed the second deal for the second year, he entered the portal. I think they paid him $30,000 of the $390,000 or whatever. And now part of his contract stipulated that if he left via the portal, he owed Georgia the entire amount of the contract, if I'm remembering this right. Now Georgia's suing him for that $390,000. Maybe these kids has got to get better representation and not put that kind of clause in those contracts.
Yeah, I was about to say that's.
I mean, the school's probably not going to win, but that's
somebody probably wasn't looking deeply into that.
That's why you got to be careful with who you get to represent you. But do I think? No, I don't think there's any chance that Kyle Richards is promoted to offensive coordinator. I do believe that when Riley was hired, that was kind of the plan, for Richardson to kind of shadow him and be groomed until Riley was ready to go off and take a head coaching job. I don't think you can do that just based off the results you've had.
Right.
Number one, you would have an absolute revolt if Dabo tried to just hire a guy from within. People would be wanting to burn the place down, man. I just think you have to go out and get somebody that can do what you hired Riley to do 3 years ago. Come in and retool the system and bring in a new scheme. Kyle Richardson's an air raid guy. I kind of see Sweeney wanting to get away from the air raid. So I just don't see it playing out that way.
Right.
Does Clemson upgrade and get better in defensive backs and secondary through the portal? If you go back and listen to one of Tom Allen's pressers, I don't know, it's midway through the year. It might have been after the SMU game or the Duke game. He pretty much said, they're going to address the back end issues in the offseason. That to me was a telltale sign that they absolutely plan on addressing the secondary. You got Terrell announcing today he's leaving a year early. You signed two corners in this class. Neither one of them are probably going to be plug-and-play type guys. So basically what you're left with is Ashton Hampton and Brandon Strozier, who's still kind of coming along, and Corey and Gibson, who was at nickel most of the year. I don't think there's any other way you can – I think you have to go and bring in multiple DBs, and I would be shocked if they don't.
Right. Yeah, that's an area that we got to improve on big time.
What do you think really went wrong with Garrett Riley, and were you surprised it didn't work? Yeah, I thought it was going to be I thought it was a home run hire when they made it, just like most everybody else. And I don't think I don't think there's just one explanation for why it hasn't turned out the way everybody envisioned. Number one, I don't know that. I think sometimes the play calls get kind of questionable, and when the pressure gets amped up, or in the game's biggest moments, or the scheme's just not been very effective in the red zone. It's a lot of things. I think the quarterback plays had something to do with that. You've absolutely not had what you thought you were going to have in Klubnik. He's been really good at times. He's been not so good at times. You never really found that consistency. It'd be interesting to see what he could do with a better quarterback and an offensive line that kind of fits what he wants to do, with all the pulling and stuff that you see Clemson trying to do at times. But yeah, I just think there's a lot of reasons, man, that it's not worked out. Yeah, I expect I lean towards thinking Parker's going to head off to the draft. Any legs on the Arizona State? I would be very surprised if Clemson went and spent $3.54 million on a quarterback, and that'd probably be where his market ends up.
Yeah, it's interesting to see who's going to be left.
Yeah, I've seen where not all the schools are going to sign the CSC. They were never going to allow that. You got too many. You got too many teams that want to be able to spend a lot of money above the cap, and that would have put a damper on that. See the new quarterback signing of Kate Reynolds. Yeah, Tate Reynolds as another Todd Boyd type of quarterback. I hate that Tate missed his whole senior season pretty much. He got hurt in the first game. I don't think he was ever fully back. I think he played in the last game, but I don't even think he played the whole game. I hate that he missed out on that year of development. He's very athletic. He moves around very well. He's built like a tank, man. The kid is just stacked. He's definitely a guy that can have some success in the running game. But he's probably going to need a little bit of polishing as a passer, especially since he didn't get that senior year.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't give you names on who's going to be targets. I just say this. I don't see Clemson going out and spending $3.5, $4.5, $5 million on a quarterback. I think Cade made in the $2.5, $3 million range this past year. I just don't see him spending much more than that. So I would look for guys in that maybe that tier below that, top.
I was about to say the high dollar.
That would be maybe where I put the focus. All right, one more. Would not mind seeing Denson given a little more of a chance or more playing time. Yeah, it's going to be a big spring for Denson, but you can't go in. I just don't know that you can. I don't know that you can go into the spring, and it's the same thing with Vizina. After the season you've had, I don't know how you can go into the spring selling the fan base on hope, potential. This, or how promising a guy looks. I've seen, or let's just say, I've seen enough of Vizina to, I'm convinced he's not the guy. I hate to say it, but that's just me. We've barely seen any of Denson. No doubt he's dynamic with the ball in his hands, and matter of fact, he's electric with the ball in his hands.
Yes, he
but
is.
he's still got some same thing I said about Tate a minute ago. He's got some. He needs to be more polished as a passer. Left-handers always got that funky delivery. His is elongated. He throws it a little flat-footed. I think he's probably a year away.
Right.
How about you? You think you'll see him go get a quarterback out of the portal?
Per conversations I've had with the source, I believe so. I can't really
put you on the spot there.
Can't really.
That's kind of where I am.
Details.
That's kind of where I am.
And I'm not, but what I will say is, I think they're, like you said, it's going to be a big spring for Vizina and Denson. Definitely Denson, because you saw a little. You kind of, even though it wasn't quote unquote a big game, it's still a game for a young kid to get in and have success the way he did. And you get happy about that because you start looking at, okay, is this going to be the future? But I do think that they are going to find someone in the portal because you got to have that insurance just in case your current guys don't work out, or let's just say that guy that you do get is, better and ready than the ones that you have.
And I'll add this. If Clemson indeed does go out and sign a portal quarterback, one of the guys here is leaving.
Correct.
I don't know which one. I don't know if it'll be more than one. One of those guys is going to leave. No, it's not going to be Mensa. He signed a $8 million 2-year deal with Duke before last year. But back to Pierman. Pierman's not going to be the starting quarterback next year. No. All right, man. We appreciate everybody that tuned in here tonight. Very much appreciated. Before we jump out of here, I want to do something I did not do at the top. Thank the sponsors. A-Glass, 2 locations in the PD. There's the number for the Florence office. There's the number for the Sumter office. They take care of all your auto glass needs. They do replacement, repair. Give yourself a free quote today at myaglass.com. Always a pleasure having you on, my friend. Very much appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we will be right back here next Monday, 7 p.m. Keep checking the site. We'll have all the updates we can get you on the coaching stuff, the portal stuff, and everything in between. Clemson Insider next Monday, 7 p.m.